There's no lemon so sour that you can't make something resembling lemonade. I know that everyone in this room has been handed a bad lemon at some point, so I chose to share this quote because I think it is one we can all learn from. I've had my fair share of experiences with what I thought were bad lemons. The first time I found out I was moving across the country, I felt as if it was the end of the world. I was only 7 years old at the time, but I can still remember when my parents called me to the dining room to tell me, "Your father got a new job in Washington," was the first thing my mother said. To them it was exciting news, but to me it meant leaving my home, my entire extended family, and all the friends I had grown up with. The second time I found out I was moving across the country, it felt more as if my world had shattered around me. This time I was in the 7th grade, having spent the past 5 years in Seattle. Not only was I leaving my newfound home, but I was leaving it to move to Cleveland, and I was having to face the move on my own since my older sister was graduating going off to college that year. I felt completely alone, and as if my parents didn't care about my feelings at all. I was trading in my backyard view of Mount Rainier for a city house that I couldn't even keep my dog at. The future plans I had made with friends had disappeared in a heartbeat, and not only was I hurt, but I was angry. I was at the age where I felt I should have had a say, but no one cared to listen. Cleveland turned out to be not so bad. I made friends and was a lot closer to family. My grandma ended up moving in with us and even becoming one of my best friends at the time. However, this only lasted a short year before my father came home with the news that, again, we were moving across the country. This time I was a mess. I was angry, bitter, and felt the world was just out to get me. However, looking back on all the places I've lived after all these years, now I realize that I would not be who I am today had I not made those moves. Yes, with each move, I left homes behind, friends behind, and even had to give up a few pets. However, with each move also came new homes, new friends, and a more open outlook on life. Because I have lived in such different places and experienced it alongside such different people, I was able to grow in a way I never would have been able to had I spent my whole life in the small town of Erie, Pennsylvania. I never would have gone on the amazing hikes and seen the beautiful views that Seattle had to offer. I never would have gone horseback riding and whitewater rafting in Montana. I never would have gone on a class trip to Chicago or met the amazing friends that I've made here. I wouldn't have the memories of camping trips gone wrong or a kayaking adventure I thought was the end. I never would experience any of this had my dad not decided to leave his hometown that day. The reason I decided to talk about my constant moving is because at the time, I felt as if life was throwing sour lemons at me left and right. I never stopped to think that I was in charge of how I reacted to these moments. I looked at them as leaving something behind instead of embracing the idea of discovering something new. The same can be said for the mistakes you've made in the past. God knows I made a lot of them, but if you look back on your life with regrets, then you never get to grow. I can stand up here today and genuinely say that I'm happy for the mistakes that I've made. They have taught me things about life and myself that I never would have learned otherwise. I can say that I'm happy for moving around as much as I did, and although I had to leave people behind, it was a blessing to have made those connections in the first place. I know that wherever I go from here, I can continue to make those connections with those around me. I hope that I'm able to continue to look at a closing door as just another one opening to new opportunities. I hope that I'm able to continue to make mistakes and to grow from them, and I hope the same for all of you as well. But most of all, I hope that the one thing I can leave you with, the one piece of advice you remember from me, if you remember anything at all, is that life is truly a gift, and there really is no lemon so sour that it can't make something resembling lemonade. Thank you. Okay.